Welcome to our annual Undergraduate Torah Studies Senior Lunch and Award Ceremony. There are many special people in this room. I want to recognize the provost who is here with us, the deans that are here with us, the rebbeim, the faculty, the staff, and the families that joined us here today on a Monday afternoon to be here with many of the graduates, and of course the seniors that are here as well. We're celebrating everyone in this room today. This is a very special moment. This whole month, in some ways, is a special moment. It's just a long moment. That's really beginning now. You may have some stress over some finals in between, and then we will celebrate together on the 22nd in a more grand way. The food might be better here, though. It's a moment to take stock, to reflect, to think about your time here in Yeshiva, your years here in Yeshiva, what you've gained, the relationships that you've cultivated with your friends, with your rebbeim, with advisors, with the whole team, as we say at open house and as we say at our orientation. One of the main things that we ask each of you to do during the course of your time here at Yeshiva is to find at least one person that you will connect to that will be your guide, both during your time here and for your time after Yeshiva. I specifically want to single out, since this is the Undergraduate Torah Studies Award Ceremony, to single out all the rebbeim, all those that are here right now, and those that might be not in the room presently, but preparing for shir otherwise. We really want to thank the rebbeim for all that they have done. The truth is, this might sound ironic, unless you've heard it from me already. This is for the seniors for a second over here. The best way that you can say thank you to your Rebbe, in addition to writing a card, if people still do that these days, in addition to going over and saying thank you, the best way that you can say thank you to your Rebbe is if you continue to have a relationship with him after you graduate. If you continue to call with questions, to come in to share once in a while, to call before Shabbos and say, hello, how is Rebbe doing, to visit on the Chol HaMoed. It's not a bother, it's what they're looking forward to cultivate those relationships not only while you're here, but for many, many, many years afterwards. And in many ways, that's the best way that you can say thank you. Because what you're telling them is that the lessons and the knowledge that they've imparted with you were not just for the few years that you were here, but it left an impression upon you for the rest of your life. And I encourage all of you to do that. Before we get into the valedictorians, we have a few additional awards of recognition, and I want to call up Rabbi Bacon to begin that part.
I do want to say thank you to two, there's plenty of seats. I do want to say thank you to two very special seniors who are graduating. All our seniors are incredibly special to us. But two have put a lot of work and hard work and effort and planning and thought into the programming of the yeshiva, into enhancing the experience of all of their fellow students. I refer to Soy, and specifically to David Kohanchi and Noam Mayerfeld. Come on up. They definitely deserve that round of applause. They're not only thinking about how can we enhance the environment, what programs we can run, and what kumzits we can do, and what shir would be extra to add in, but they also roll up their sleeves and they help out, schlepping tables and doing what needs to get done to make it work well and be special for you. So we want to just thank them on their way out, and we want to give them this sefer as a token of our appreciation.
Okay, stay here. If we can keep the talking down for a little bit till the program's over, we'll go as quickly as possible. We have another short presentation right now, hopefully as short as that one, but very, very meaningful. We have two rebbeim who have each been part of our yeshiva for over 30 years. They've grown up in our yeshiva, they were talmidim in our yeshiva, they've taught for decades in our yeshiva, and yeshiva is definitely part and parcel of who they are, who they will always be, and what they take with them as they leave our yeshiva. And it's with a bittersweet moment that we recognize Rabbi Romm and Rabbi Yehuda Willig. Rabbi Romm, as we know, from last week, we'll be making Aliyah this summer. And Rabbi Willig will be making some sort of Yeridah, but still very much part of our yeshiva, and we really, really thank them for who they are, truly as role models of our yeshiva, in every sense of that word. So we thank them very much. We have mezuzahs for each of them in their new homes. Here, hold on. Let's come together again one more time. Okay, ready to go. Okay. Next part. Me or you? Me? Yeah. You're good. Okay. Okay, now for the moment many of us have been waiting for in addition. We have 4 valedictorians for each of our programs that we're very, very proud of. In order to introduce each of the valedictorians, we've asked the Rebbe of each of the Talmidim to say a few words. And first we'd like to call upon Rabbi Green to introduce this year's JSS valedictorian.
First of all, welcome Josh's parents, and thank you so much for joining us. Very simply put, in JSS, to be valedictorian means a lot. It means that you're not only in Shir and learning and growing, but you're part of our JSS family. And I think Josh is mamish the penultimate of that, of being, coming in as a little freshman or from Bar Ilan, whatever it was that you were, right? And jumping in right away to be part of things. He went on our first Israel trip, made a video for the Israel trip, encouraged guys on the trip, did follow up, ran for student council for 2 years, was the JSF representative, got us on par with the YP zip-ups and all of that, and events, Shabbatonim, etc., all at the same time of caring about his fellow students, but also looking in the mirror and saying, how can I grow? What am I doing for my own growth? Taking the effort to go to Rabbi Orly and Shir and taking that seriously, having chavrusas and starting a chavrusa program for other guys in JSS. I really can't think of a better person who models everything that we really look up to in our JSS family than Josh Asaraf. So please share some words with us.
Bereshut, the teacher, Rabbanim, deans, Rosh Yeshiva. Mazal tov to everyone else who's receiving awards and valedictorian. I want to start with this. My journey to YU wasn't linear by any means. I grew up in a suburb in Philadelphia called Upper Dublin. I went to public school where, despite not having easily accessible Jewish resources, my Israeli mother would make Shabbat dinners every Friday night. We'd go to shul every Saturday morning. My brother and I were taught to put on tefillin every day, and with my sister, we were involved in Orthodox organizations in the area. Post-COVID, while my other school peers went to 4-year secular colleges, I knew I needed something out of the ordinary. While for most of you guys at YU, a gap year at Yeshiva was a normal thing to do, for me, it was a culture I was unfamiliar with. I went to the Israel XP program at Bar Ilan University. It was my first time being surrounded by an all-Jewish Orthodox environment, and with the guidance of the staff and Rabbi Ely Bacon at the Israel XP program, they knew YU would be the best fit for me. In my 3 years here, I had the honor of being Sephardic Club president and JSS representative for 2 years, where I joined the first Eish HaTorah JSS trip, led by Rabbi Jon Green, as he mentioned. And there was over 7 JSS students that returned to Israel, including myself, after this trip. Additionally, I got to go on the humanitarian aid mission led by Rabbi Daniel Coleman to El Salvador and Guatemala, where we brought the YU energy to the hidden Jewish communities and volunteered across 12 different hospitals, malnutrition centers, and schools. From a leadership perspective, I felt my mission at YU was always to authentically impact others the same way I was. When I was at Bar Ilan, I heard of a story about a rabbi who once gave a deeply enthusiastic shiur to one student after expecting a room full of 100. After the shiur, the rabbi was giving a very enthusiastic and passionate shiur. The one student came back to him and said, "Why are you so passionate? Why are you so energetic?" And then the rabbi replies, "What are you talking about? There's 1,000 people in the room. I'm speaking to many generations just from that one person." That mindset stuck with me. I realized that leadership isn't about crowd size. It's about sincerity, showing up and giving your all no matter who's in the room. Taking on after this, I focused on leading with intention, knowing that even small moments leave lasting impact, whether it was running events, building chavrutas, or just showing up. Shout out my chavruta Adam Levy. I tried to give it my all, even if it was just one person in the room. With all the religious growth I experienced, there's uncertainty for all of us here in the room heading into the working world. I want to leave off with this. Just 2 weeks ago, I was flying back from Florida post-Pesach. I debated whether or not to put on tefillin in the airport alone or wait till I got back right before Shabbat with more than enough time. It was 7 a.m. in the morning and I was just way too tired, so I decided to take a nap very far from anyone, away from the flight that I was going to board. It was in a random gate. I soon found a quiet spot away from the gate and away from any flight boarding soon. Half an hour later, I find myself surrounded by 10 Jews facing the window with the sun shining in, very bright. I'm sleeping on the airport benches, dressed the way I was, in airport fashion, and then all of a sudden I hear Yit Gadal, Veit Gadash. I was beyond myself. I was disoriented. I woke up, I knew what was going on. I took the hood off. I had a kippah in my pocket. I take out my tefillin and I jump in on the minyan. I called my brother to tell him exactly what just happened, and the first thing he said is, Hashem will always find a way bringing the Kedusha to you. I know that when I put in effort, Hashem sends gifts your way. My options were to daven alone or when I got back to YU, but Hashem did me better and gave me a minyan right where I was exactly in the airport. As my time to YU comes to a close, it won't be so easy, surrounded by friends and rebbeim that constantly push you to higher limits of Kedusha. But this story was a foreshadow that Hashem will remind us and give us these moments of Kedusha and the growth we should continue to strive for. Thank you to the rebbeim, my shiur rabbis over the years, Rabbi Ori Orlean, Rabbi Jon Green, Rabbi Reuven Boschneck, Rabbi Mordechai Becher, and Sephardic Rabbi Don Cohen, and everyone, including my parents, my mom and dad, that enabled me to impact others the way I was impacted. Thank you.
We're going to ask Rabbi Rofeh to come up and to introduce the next valedictorian for IBC.
Mazal tov to the parents, to the families, to the graduates. Shutz kol rabbanim. I am honored and really happy to introduce you and tell you a little bit about our IBC valedictorian. I'd be bereft though if I didn't highlight though both the loss of the Yeshiva for both Rabbi Willig and Rabbi Romm, who I've known for over 20 years at YU, and in particular Rabbi Romm, who's one of our rebbeim in IBC. You're irreplaceable. We're trying to do what we can to fill in the gap that you're leaving here, and your sweetness and your love and your warmth, again, we can't replace that, and we're going to do what we can to continue to have our Talmidim be exposed to that. You'll hear a minute from Jake, and Jake is one of your Talmidim. He's going to be quoting you in a moment. But just know that the impact you've had on Yeshiva and our Talmidim is tremendous, and we really are going to miss you tremendously. And Baruch Hashem, if you're leaving, you're going to Eretz Yisrael, and we should all join you very soon. Many of you don't know Jake, but as a Sephardi, one pasuk comes to mind. And it's every morning, Sephardim are to say the Korbanos at Shacharitz, at the Mincha. And when I think of Jake, I think of the Korban Tamid. Because Jake is one of the most reliable people that I've encountered in IBC. He runs the minyan, he's been the gabbai. He steps up whenever we need him, whether it's to lead tefillah, to find a laner, or to even lane when he's unprepared. And in some arenas of life, a lot of people who take a position of leadership could at times be a little bit more aggressive, assert themselves a little more than necessary. And Jake is the complete opposite. He's one of the most unassuming guys you're going to meet in IBC. And I'm really proud to say that many years, this year included, as easily as our valedictorian could have been the valedictorian, they could have gotten the Midot award. Because Jake got like the best Midot in the entire program. And for all of the graduates and all the honorees, I think a bracha that I want to leave you all with, and many rebbeim I think would as well, is that all the limud that you've done should transform you and impact you. And you're not necessarily leaving the yeshiva, as long as you take the yeshiva with you, both in your learning and what you do with that learning. And Jake, you very much embody the ideals of being reliable, of being a leader, of being sweet, of being kind, and internalizing the Torah that you've learned. You've had most of the rebbeim in IBC, and no one has anything negative to say about you, Rebbe or otherwise. We say that we all try to become Talmidei Chachamim. In the Gemara, we usually call someone who's a wise person a Talmid Chacham. I like to say, according to the Bible, the only way to be a Chacham is to always be yourself as a Talmid. To always have that Talmid mindset. To have the humility to be able to continue to want to learn, to realize that we don't know much at all, and we're all on our journey. And Baruch Hashem, Jake, you have the humility to always be a Talmid. And with that, you should have a bracha to become the true Chacham we're hoping you should be. Mazal tov to Jake Resnick on being the IBC valedictorian. We'd love to hear some good Torah.
Mazal tov to everyone here. In Pirkei Avot, Perek Bet, Mishnah Daled, Hillel says, Al tifrosh min hatzibur. Do not separate yourself from the community. My experience in the IBC community has been so warm, supportive, and welcoming that I could not imagine being in another program. As soon as I got to YU, I knew IBC was the right program for me. Having the opportunity to vary my learning from philosophy to Tanakh to Gemara to Halacha has given me the skills and ability to live the life I strive to live. It has been a privilege to have had the opportunity to become lifelong friends with such a diverse and motivated group of people, all with the shared goal of learning. I have learned so much. For example, I learned from Rabbi Romm that if you elect to eat Shem on Pesach, you are most probably eating chametz, and that's a problem, But more significantly, if you are choosing to eat shampoo, you probably have a bigger problem than just chametz. I learned how to somehow convince people to daven for the Amud, which is really not easy to do. And finally, I learned just how often Rav Rofeh breaks the #1 rule of Fight Club. All jokes aside, my experience in IBC has taught me self-reflection, practical day-to-day halacha, and how to critically and analytically look at individual words of Torah. IBC taught me that it's perfectly acceptable to learn meaningful Torah and connect to Hashem, even if it's not what everyone else is learning. Without IBC, I would not feel comfortable being a Jew while interacting with the real world. What I did not expect upon entering the program, however, was how tight-knit IBC has felt from day one. It is very much a reflection of Bnei Yisrael under Har Sinai as ki ish echad v'lev echad. Being able to serve as a gabbai of the IBC minyan has really driven that point home for me. Many people say that the gabbai runs the show, but the gabbai most certainly cannot do so without a good community. There is a strong sense of mutual accountability present among everyone. A special thank you to Aiden Frolich and Kiki Aroshas, who split the brunt of the laning over the last 3 years. Thank you for saving me a lot of extra time and last-minute panicking. Another thank you to Benjamin Cates, who led davening nearly every day and was integral to the minyan running well. The same goes for those who served as a Baal Tefillah or lane even once. They have helped the minyan run as smoothly as it did, and for that I'm so grateful to everyone. IBC officially stands for Isaac Breuer College, but to me, IBC stands for I Believe in Community. As I conclude, I would like to say thank you. First of all, to Hashem for helping me reach this point. To my parents who have supported me my entire life. To all of my rebbeim and IBC who have been invaluable to my growth as a Jew and as a person. Rav Rofeh, Rabbi Angel, Rabbi Fink, Rav Goldvicht, Rabbi Romm, Rabbi Laufer, and Rav Beshevkin. You have all been extremely instrumental in my YU experience, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank you profusely. I want to show my appreciation to Rav Rofeh again for spearheading IBC and providing us with indispensable guidance and advice. In addition, I want to recognize and thank the past 2 IBC student representatives and fellow graduates, Moshe Epstein and Mark Koznicki, who have provided IBC students with a wonderful last 2 years. I doubt many others would be able to replicate the successes you had as student reps. And finally, to all of my fellow IBC community members who really made the last 3 years such a wonderful and memorable experience, I will always look back upon these years with great fondness. Thank you.
I'd like to call Rabbi Rapp to introduce the BMP and valedictorian.
For the over 30 years that the Irving I. Stone Beit Midrash program has existed, it has had an identity problem. People are confused as to why there is a BMP. Is it MYP Light, where for people who should have been in MYP but they were pre-med, where the rebbeim are sitting there waiting to get called up to the big leagues? Is it maybe a more serious program, a program where we don't focus on Gemara, but rather it's a high-end babysitting program where the students are meant to be kept happy and Jewish for as long as possible? The truth of the matter is, when BMP was established back in the day of Rabbi Schmidman, the purpose of BMP was and remains to be a program where the focus of Gemara remains, but at the same time, we look to create Talmidim who are well-rounded, who enter the workforce not just with the ability and the appreciation for learning Gemara, but also the basics of halacha, machshava, navi, well-rounded Talmidei Chachamim that Yeshiva can be proud of. I am happy to say that our valedictorian, perhaps better than anybody else, represents this. We are dealing with someone who over the last 4 years has matured greatly, has been one of the worst year reps I've ever seen, but has grown in his appreciation not just of Gemara, but of all aspects of Yiddishkeit. Speaking to Rafi's mother informed me that I've been at their Shabbos table for the last 4 years. I'd like to say the food was delicious. But the fact that we could have Talmidim who appreciate the limudim so much so that they want to say it over. There's always another question. Always another question is something that I've appreciated. So I congratulate Rafi on a job well done, and I look to hear not just your questions, but what else you can give us. Thank you.
Bashirs, rabbis, Rosh Yeshiva, fellow graduates, faculty, thank you for this incredible honor and opportunity to share about my time here at YU, especially in SBMP. When I sat down to write the speech, I opened the Chumash to this week's Parsha, Akiva Prager, and searching for some inspiration. And there was the words on the page seeming to speak to me directly. It was that moment I knew my time at YU had truly come full circle. It says in this week's Parsha, Ushmartem echukusai mitzvotai asher yaseh osam ha'adam v'chai behem ani Hashem. You shall observe my decrees and my judgment, which man shall carry out, and live by them, I am Hashem. A common understanding of this pasuk is based off the Gemara in Yuma, which teaches that one may violate Shabbos to save a life. The Gemara explains when it says chai behem, it means that you should not die by them, meaning that the mitzvah was given to preserve life, not to cause death. Back in 2019, this very pasuk is what I focused on when writing my YU honors application essay. I had to write a speech about a character that faced difficulty, and I wrote about the book The Martian, and I related to the characters to this pasuk. I conveyed the theme of perseverance, of not giving up, of continuing to learn despite challenges. But today I have an incredible opportunity to revisit this pasuk and reflect on a different, perhaps simpler message. One I saw cited by Rabbi Yisachar Frand in the name of the Ger Rabbi. When it says v'chai behem, the Torah is telling us that it is our zest for life comes from doing mitzvah. I believe that we have all gained this from our time here at YU, the ability to truly live by them, being a person whose life is guided and animated by Torah and mitzvah. For many of us, before coming to YU, mitzvah was something we just observed without much thought. We kept them because we were told to, because that's how we grew up, because that is what everyone else did. But at YU, something shifted for me. I no longer simply just observed the mitzvah, I began to live by them. Over the past 4 years, I had the incredible success to be part of Rabbi Rapp's year. What defined those years were not just the Gemara we learned, but the opportunity to fill in so many gaps of my Torah knowledge. SBMP and my Rebbe gave me the incredible breadth of Torah that I could have not gained anywhere else. It gave me a true zest for learning. I had the opportunity to learn Nach, completing in-depth nearly 200 prakim. We explored major areas of halacha, from Shabbos and Yontif to kashrus and tzitzis, tefillin, and countless others. We even had we periodically had a few fun one-off topics, like last year during the solar eclipse, we learned the halacha implication on solar eclipse. We even on Pi Day last year discussed how the number pi is used in halacha. We spent a semester doing practical workplace halacha, and every Sunday we explore topics of machshava, such as learning about Mashiach and its relation to Zionism, to the Rambam's 13 Ikar Emunah. All of this learning didn't just inform me; it transformed me. Torah and mitzvot became a lens which I see the world by which I measure my choices. Our time at YU has been during a turbulent time in history. I began during the end of COVID, and then came October 7, which deeply impacted all of us. Throughout it all, the most grounding part of my life that kept me steady and focused was my time in Shir. Starting and ending each day with Torah, in a place filled with love and connection to Eretz Yisrael, was an anchor. Now, as I prepare to leave the walls of the yeshiva and ending for most of us our formal Jewish education and stepping into the next chapter of our lives, whether that is graduate school, the workforce, and even starting to build our own families, we will face many new challenges. We will no longer have Shir every morning or night seder built into our schedule. What we do have, however, are the value and lessons we've gained here at YU. So now, it's time to take everything we learned and v'chai behem and live by it. I want to thank my Rebbe, Rabbi Rapp, and all the rabbis who impacted me here in my time at YU, my friends, and anyone else who supported me, especially my parents. I didn't grow into someone who learned Torah, I grew into someone who lives by Torah. Mazal to my fellow graduates, may we all continue to live by the Torah we've learned here in YU.
Call upon Rabbi Rosensweig to introduce the YP valedictorian.
Thank you very much. One second. The Rambam in Perek Daled of Hilchos Talmud Torah explains what the relationship between a Rebbe and Talmud should be. More specifically, who should be a proper Talmud. The Rambam says, Ein melamdin Torah elo Talmud hagun. You can only teach Torah to a proper Talmud, or refined Talmud, na'eh b'ma'asav, one whose behavior, whose conduct reflects a certain high level. O latam, then he adds, or to someone who has a neutral status. Aval im haya holech b'derech lo tova, if it's somebody whose behavior, whose conduct is not correspond to the high values of Torah itself, then before one allows his entry into the Beis Medrash, one needs to reform this individual, etc. Because we live in a post-Rambam world, the Rambam's impact was so enormous, we sometimes don't appreciate his creativity and his contribution and the significance of the way in which he formulates things. If you look very carefully at the sources upon which this statement is built, the Gemara in Masechet Chulin, Daf Kuf Lamed Gimel, the Gemara is in Masechet Tainis, and Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, as was noted by the Avodas HaMelech. None of these Gemaras really establish that one is only allowed to include Talmidim who have the status of being Hagun and Na'eh b'ma'asav. In fact, what the Gemara does say in Chulin and in Tainis, the Gemara focuses on the negative. The Gemara says that someone who's inappropriate is someone who should not be granted access to the Beis Medrash. However, the positive requirement that you need a Talmud Hagun, that is something that doesn't appear in rabbinic sources. That is the specific formulation of the well-known rationalistic Rambam. And in fact, if you zero in on that language, there's more than one chiddush. The Rambam says, Ein melamdim Torah el Talmud Hagun. That's the high aspiration. You can only teach extremely worthy, impressive students. Then he adds the words na'eh b'masav, which doesn't appear in connection with this specific issue of allowing Talmidim at all. And then he says, o latam, or somebody who's neutral. By allowing a tam, somebody who is neither accomplished, not hagun, but also not eno hagun, it would appear that the Rambam completely neutralized his first aspirational requirement. But if we take a step back and we appreciate the subtle yet important message of the Rambam, what emerges is a very remarkable idea. One which was actually repeated by Rabbi Rofeh and the others who introduced, and by each of the young men who already spoke. And that is that there needs to be a relationship between the intellectual achievements of Torah and the building of character, the refinement of personality. And that relationship is dual. On the one hand, part of the goal of Talmud Torah, of Torah study, is precisely to cultivate refined, committed young men, those who embody the values of Torah. If somebody is not hagun, and in addition, na'eh b'ma'asav, if he is not qualified in that way, then obviously the impact of his study has been significantly diluted. But in addition, it's critical that a person be hagun, that he be na'eh b'ma'asav. Only then can he fully appreciate the inner logic of Torah, the transcendence of Torah. Only somebody with humility and refinement can truly internalize what Torah is all about. And there is, in other words, a dialectical relationship between the impact and the prerequisite of teaching Torah. And the Rambam formulates all of this in these few words. The Shulchan Aruch actually dropped the Rambam's formulation in the Talmud Torah. It only speaks about the prohibition of teaching someone who is not hagun. While the Rambam understood that not all students will qualify, and he certainly didn't want to exclude a tam from the Beis Medrash, he intentionally formulated his requirement of Hagun and Na'eh b'masav as the first standard, as if to say, you can teach many students, but those who are Na'eh b'masav and Hagun, it's a different experience entirely. That's where Talmud Torah, in its fullest, is attained and achieved. For me, it's a very special privilege to be able to introduce the valedictorian of the Yeshiva program, Akiva Prager, a very special young man, one who qualifies in terms of his scholarship for sure, but a kind of young man that the Rambam had in mind when he said that you require, for the highest level of Talmud Torah, a Talmid Hagun, and someone who is Na'eh b'masav. Not only is Akiva one of our prominent row of Akivas in our shir, representing all the Akivas, each one very special, but he in his own right is just a very wonderful and remarkable young man. Somebody who, in addition to his capabilities, has a certain kind of strong personality, certainly doesn't shy away from the Milchamta Shel Torah, with everything that it implies, someone who takes initiative, someone who can be properly stubborn, who needs to be convinced on occasion, more than one occasion, of the rectitude of his Rebbe's svaras, all which is good, but at the same time, whose character and whose refinement and whose menschlichkeit is equally on display. Someone who is interested in receiving and not just in taking, a young man really who represents what the concept of Mesorah, of Kabbalah and Mesira is really all about. So it's really special for me to be able to acknowledge and to introduce Akiva. And just as a final word, it's an additional personal privilege, Hachut HaMeshulash Lo B'mheira Yinatek. I've had the privilege of being involved with the Prager family. The grandfather, Dr. Jonas Prager, who hopefully is on Zoom, and is a very special individual, used to come to my Monday night shiurim for many, many, many years. And of course, Rabbi Yosef Prager, who was a Talmud, and now Akiva. And for me, that sense of nachas, that sense of continuity, is something that is very special as well. So, Akiva.
Birshos, the Rosh Yeshiva, Kalinsky, the Dean, other Deans who came, all the staff, the rebbeim, Ashkichim, my parents, family who's on Zoom, family who came. Thank you very, very much. Mazal tov to the other valedictorians. You guys were all amazing. Like really, really amazing speeches. Yeah, sure. It was amazing getting to know you guys a little bit at the photo shoot on Thursday, and hopefully to continue. We should all get to know each other even better. And to all the seniors on our upcoming graduation, it's a real zchus to be able to celebrate together on such a momentous occasion. Every morning we say the words Ashreinu matov chelkeinu umana'im goraleinu umayafa yerushaseinu. We say how fortunate are we, our good portion, our nice lot, and our great inheritance, our beautiful inheritance. What do each of these words refer to? Chelek, Goral, and Yerusha. Al derech drush, I'd like to frame what I'm about to say using this line. First, to talk about our chelek, matov chelkeinu. We end Shmona Esrei every day, and it's in the bracha of Kedushas Hayom on Shabbos and Yantif, V'sein chelkeinu b'sorasecha. Chelek implies a connection to Torah. So too, the Bryce in the 9th parak of Brachos says that the bracha on the Talmud Chacham is shechalak mechachmaso lireyav. Hashem gave a chelek of his chachma to the ones who fear him. To talk about our great chelek means to talk about the Torah that we've gained in this yeshiva, to talk about the connection to our rebbeim that we've had in this yeshiva. Our rebbeim, whether it was our shir rebbeim, our mashkichim, other rebbeim we got to hear from throughout Sichos Musar and as Shabbos guests, they've given us an amazing chelek. They've given us such an amazing piece of Torah. Specifically for me, to talk about the Masmidim program led by Rav Twersky, Rav Cohen, Rav Zoberman, which has been so influential in me finding my chelek in Torah. to give a special hakaras hatov to Mari Rabbi Rosensweig, to sit in shir and masmidim chaburas, to really pick up a certain derech. It's a real schus to call myself a Talmud of Rebbe. And Emir Hashem, that's not ending this year, and to continue both the relationship and the formal learning is going to be very, very special for me. But for each of us, whether it's in Lamdus or Machshava, Halacha or Ashkafa, in any of those areas, we've been zocheh to be mekabel an amazing chelek. And we should really appreciate that. Matov chalkeinu. Second, manaim goralenu. Goral is a lashon of a lottery. It's a language of something that seems random. And as opposed to our rebbeim, which we all chose to learn by, so the friends who we met in YU are not the same. Sometimes who you meet at YU does feel a little bit like a lottery. I know that guy and he knows him. We happen to be in the same class. Or we ended up in the same shir. We learn in the same base medrash. We sit in the same place in the library. We daven next to each other. Something that could just occur. It seems like it's happenstance. Maybe it's just on the sushi line at the caf. People you meet, it seems like a go-round. Sometimes it's an opportunity to rekindle a relationship from middle school, somebody you haven't seen in 6 years, and all of a sudden you reconnect to. For me, the guys who I get to see every day in the base medrash, to walk in, greet them with a smile or a wave, the people you see outside in between Gluck and First, to have a quick conversation, a catch-up, how is Shabbos, how is Pesach. It sometimes feels like a go-roll, but what an amazing lottery. Sometimes you feel like you won. The chaver here is just outstanding. And I'm always excited to come back after Ben Azmanim and to see everyone, to hear everyone, to just see the smiles that come up, to reignite with each of my friends. The go-roll, manaim goralenu, we're so zocheh to be in a place where the chaver is so amazing. Lastly, to talk about Mayafa Yerushasenu, the inheritance of this yeshiva, beyond any individual Rebbe or any piece of Torah any of us might have heard over the last few years, to talk about what it means to be in this institution, the Mesorah of our yeshiva, a Yerusha that we have been given, realizing this especially in light of the last year and a half, the war, to see the Mesorah of our yeshiva as unique within Klal Yisrael, Mayafa Yerushasenu, to appreciate how we've been formed by the thought of Rav Soloveitchik and many others who left their imprint on this place to imbue the values that make YU so special, a Yerusha which is so yafa, it's so beautiful and good, Mayafa Yerusha Seinu. So we can say, Ashreinu, Matov Chalkeinu, our rebbeim, Manaim Goralenu, our friends, Mayafa Yerusha Seinu, our yeshiva. Fortunate are we to have been here for such a crucial part of our lives. Where do we go from here? At the end of each of the Svarim of the Torah, we exclaim a curious phrase, Chazak, Chazak, v'nis chazek. We should be strong, strong, and we shall be strong. Weirdly, the first two words are written b'lashon yachid, Chazak, Chazak, individual language, but v'nis chazek is a lashon rabim, is a plural language. L'chora, we would have thought it should say Chazakim, Chazakim, v'nis chazek. We're strong, and we should yet get stronger. But why do we say Chazak, Chazak, and then switch to plural? As we go through a Sefer of the Torah, each parsha is its own unit. Each parsha has its own special lessons. Vayikra is different from Tzav, Mitzorah is different from Acharei Mos. Each parsha individually should be studied and understood. Chazak, Vayikra. But at the end of the Sefer, we look back after having left that Sefer, and we can have an entirely different perspective. The divisions between parshios fall away. The messages blend into a whole, into a full Sefer, into a unit called Sefer Vayikra, Torah's Kohanim. Now, after we finish, we can use the plural lashon of Nis Chazek. While we've been at YU, each of us has taken a separate path. We've been divided by shiurim, by morning program, in our pursuit of our mahalach in YU. Chazak, Chazak, everyone, their own Chazak, strengthening their own derech. But as we leave YU and enter our own different walks of life, a new perspective emerges. As we go into our communities, we start to build families, Be'ezras Hashem, we'll hopefully work together. Maybe one of us in the room will be the Rebbe of another's children. Another might be a board member of someone else in the room's shul. Nis Chazek, let's get together. I can't wait to meet a guy who's sitting in this room in 20 years and bond over the fact that we were in YU together, no matter the shir or the morning program, and then join arms and build, to build our communities, to build our future. Right now, we can appreciate Chazak Chazak, And going forward, hopefully we can join together V'nis Chazek, Mazal Tov.